Today, Donald Trump has accused 6 Democrats in Congress of sedition. Because earlier this week, a video was made by 6 veterans in Congress and some people that are retired from the intelligence community telling our active military personnel that they do not have to follow unlawful orders. Now, this isn't anything crazy. This is just the fact of the matter. These are the facts. People in the military are not required to follow orders that are unlawful. For example, every single time one of our military personnel have helped in facilitating the explosion of fishing vessels from Venezuela, those are war crimes. Those are illegal acts, right? They don't necessarily have to follow an illegal order. If they know it to be illegal, they're not supposed to do it anyway, right? It doesn't matter if that person comes from their commanding officer or if that call comes from the President of the United States. Illegal orders do not have to be followed. And that's all this video put out. There's nothing traitorous about it. There's nothing seditious about it. It was just stating a fact. And we all know Donald Trump is absolutely crazy. He has no idea on how anything works. Dementia Don is just completely lost the plot, right? He doesn't care about our republic or democracy. What he wants is an authoritarian dictatorship like Mussolini had and like Hitler did, right? And these are just facts. This is what he wants. This is the reason he cozies up to leaders like Kim Jong-un and the leader of Saudi Arabia and things like that, right? And we expect him to do weird stuff. But let's read this here. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT. Now, we expect this kind of bullshit, right? We expect Donald Trump to come up with all sorts of stupid things because he doesn't understand how anything works. He never has understood how anything works because if he did, he would have a lot more money than he does now. He wouldn't have gone bankrupt 6 times. It wouldn't be in the process of bankrupting this country, both financially and morally. But it's what he retruthed that really agitates me, that really shows you the kind of person he really is. Right? He's over here basically fanning the flames of political violence. Under that post was a comment that stated, "Hang them, George Washington would." Yeah, you heard that right. You're reading it right. Hang them, George Washington would, for stating a fact. He is condoning the hanging of people because they stated a fact. And it's not lost on me that he did this on an app called Truth Social. These people that made this video stated a fact, and he has put a political violence target on their backs. Because he knows for a fact that there are no laws that he can use to punish people for stating facts. What he is doing by retruthing this is trying to incite his people to commit acts of violence. We've seen this happen time and again with Donald Trump. But the fact is, we expect Donald Trump to make crazy comments and stupid comments, right? We expect it. What we don't expect is him to suggest political violence. We don't expect the President of the United States to suggest hanging people because they stated a fact. Okay, there's nothing in that video that says that the military should not follow lawful orders. It said they shouldn't follow unlawful orders, as they are required by law not to do. If they know something is illegal, they're not supposed to follow it. It doesn't matter if that comes from their commanding officer or anyone else higher up the chain or the president himself. I was just following orders is not a defense against war crimes and against other crimes that you may commit. So let's be very clear what Donald Trump is doing here. He is calling for violence against people that spoke out against him. He's calling out for violence against people who are veterans to this country and know what it is to be in uniform. Donald Trump does not. He is literally putting a target on the backs of veterans in this country who have done nothing but state a fact. Donald Trump is he's completely lost it. Now, let's be very clear. He's actually committed a number of war crimes or had them carried out. Every single time he's blown up one of those Venezuelan fishing boats with no proof that there were drugs on those boats and no evidence after they were blown up to show that there were supposed drugs on the boats. Because even if you blow them up, there's still going to be some kind of remnants, right? Those are war crimes. And anybody that helped facilitate those have committed war crimes. And when this whole thing is over, because trust me, fascism never lasts. It always falls at some point. It may be 15, 20, 30 years, but it always falls at some point. And everybody involved is going to be sitting off, at The Hague, basically, and being tried for war crimes. And saying, I was just following what the president told me, is not a defense. And no, sir, I don't believe that George Washington would have people hung for stating a fact, a legal fact. If this is the kind of stuff you support, you're gone. You're too lost for me to even hazard an idea of how to help you. Because suggesting that our military should not follow unlawful orders as they are allowed to not do, but suggesting they should be hung for it, that's un-American. Those people have a First Amendment right to speak. And they know what it's like to be in the military. They know what a lawful order is and what an unlawful order is. And they know whether or not, you're supposed to follow through on unlawful orders. But see, this isn't just a threat against those people. This is a threat against American people, right? Against the American people as a whole. Because what he is hinting at here and what he is pushing for here is that he should be allowed to give unlawful orders to the military. And that puts everyone in the country at risk. This is literally the militarization of the presidency against people that disagree with him. Because what he is trying to set up, what he is trying to soften the blow for, is for when he puts military personnel, not just ICE or the National Guard, but the Marines and the Army and the Navy or the Air Force, and puts them against American people. When that first bullet flies at an American from somebody in the Marine Corps or the Army, or that first bomb is dropped on a democratic city because Donald Trump said so, he's trying to soften the blow. That way we don't think about it, that we're desensitized to it. And here's the thing, I will never be desensitized to our military troops on our streets. I don't like the National Guard being sent in times of peace. Right? I don't like our military being on the streets at all. I understand there are times when the National Guard could be called in. Like I understood, during when some of the riots a few years ago got out of control in some places, and this is back in God, I think it was St. Louis. There were some like really bad riots after a person was shot, and I understood why the National Guard was called in. But you want to know what I also saw though? Is restraint, because nobody was telling them to do illegal things. And the National Guard isn't there. They're there to keep the peace. They're not there to hurt people. But the fact is, our military is trained to be deadly and to unleash that power on our streets. That is what he is aiming for. This is why he is so upset that somebody told them that they don't have to follow unlawful orders. This is not something, this isn't traitorous, right? It's not sedition. They stated a fact. This country's gone.